Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Real Talk podcast. I hope you're doing well. In today's episode, I'm joined by David Gott, who is the owner of the Lovely Car Company, as well as the founder of the Car Dealer Pro podcast. Now, David started the Car Dealer Pro podcast back in 2020 during lockdown, I believe. David decided he wanted to use the time he had to reach out to other car dealers and kind of get an insight into their business, what their great ideas were, what their failures and successes were, and to just generally discuss the car dealership business. And the result was just this great kind of database of all the information you could ever want if you were to get into car sales, whether that be in a dealership or at home as a sole trader. And it gave me loads of ideas, including setting up my car buying service, carsboughtformore.com, which has blossomed and become an incredible company. So I have to credit David for that. So if you are looking to get into the car sales world, make sure you check out the Car Dealer Pro podcast. I will put a link to it on iTunes, Spotify, etc. in the description. And you join us basically chewing the fat, because I didn't have time to prepare for this. So we've got over an hour here of we're just kind of chatting, talking about what's currently going on in our businesses, etc. And luckily, David's very good at the podcasting type of stuff. He also helped out, asked me a few questions. If you would like to see a more structured podcast interview, then do let me know. Let me know in the comments, and let me know some of the questions I should ask David if I get him back on again, which I'm sure he'd be more than willing to do. So I hope you enjoy this episode of Real Talk, and I hope you'll check out the Car Dealer Pro podcast as well, and join us as we start talking about how David got started with that. What kind of inspired you to do it? Because obviously, like you said, you started in lockdown. It was like a real crutch for me in lockdown, because I was in my what can I do? We'd shut for about a month, and I sat in the garage and I started welding things together, thinking I could be productive. And the whole time I was listening to your podcast thing, because I'd obviously heard you about it, kind of promoting it on the dealer forum, and it gave me loads of little things that I could do. And I thought, and that's when I set up my car buying service as well, because I can't remember.
Oh yeah.
Someone was on there. One of the guests said you need to do your own car buying service, and we probably both did it around about the same time.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
And do
so
you still
yeah,
do that car buying?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, I do.
Do
Yeah.
yeah, I know you've still got yours.
I
Do you still
don't
find it works well, or
no, I don't use the
no?
pay-per-click anymore.
No.
I just think it's been absolutely hammered by all the big boys, hasn't it? So
Hasn't
then,
everyone started one now as well? Yeah,
yeah. But in lockdown, because what happened was obviously we buy any car, all the big dealers were shut. So when I done that pay-per-click thing, it was just great. We were
yeah,
getting leads all the time. Every 10 minutes there was stuff
yeah,
coming. Don't get me wrong, most of it was rubbish, but we did get pick a few like little jewels.
yeah. I did sort of Facebook and Instagram adverts, just put pictures up and then did it
Yeah,
that way. And that worked really well to start with. You'd spend like 20 quid and you'd get loads of leads. And I think
yeah.
the first thing I got offered was like a £30,000 Mustang or whatever. This was during lockdown. I thought, not in a million years.
We were getting offered like 100 grand cars, and
Yeah.
it was just mental. Well, I couldn't afford that, you know what I mean? But
No,
it
no.
was good. But yeah, going back to the podcast, I started that because I've been a DJ all my life, and
Yeah.
when COVID kicked in, like obviously all the nightclubs shut, and I needed to do something that was artistic, or I just needed to fill that void in my life of doing
Yeah.
like
Something a bit creative and
creative. That's the word, yeah, creative.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So then I just focused on doing that podcast, and it was great. It just took up all me, spare time what I had,
Yeah.
and I loved it. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
Uh,
It's funny actually. The more people I talk to who do have ended up having a car sales business, everyone's got that creative streak to them. There's
yeah,
always that commonality for some reason. You wouldn't necessarily expect it of a bunch of dodgy used car salesmen, would you? But
yeah. It's
everyone's got a
not
bit of a
like that
creative streak.
now. The new generation, it's all
Yeah.
about, we like taking pictures, doing the videos.
Yeah.
I'm really bad at it now, but I should be doing more social media stuff. You know, you look at
Yeah.
some people on the internet that have done really well, like that High Peak Autos. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
You
I had
know,
him on the podcast, yeah, a couple of weeks
yeah.
ago. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's so good. So the podcast that I had going, the last episode I done, I can't remember what happened was, but my Facebook got hacked.
Right.
I was doing a pay per clicks, and I'd started a tinting business up, and then long story short, somebody from Thailand hacked my account and bought 5,000 ads. So
Bloody
£5,000
hell.
something came out of the account, and then I lost my Facebook account, my Instagram account. But the annoying thing was, I had asked that chap from High Peak Autos if he wanted to come on the podcast, and he was like,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. And then that just knocked me off kilter, and I never got round to doing it. So I'm right jealous that you had him on.
Well, you
Really
should do it. He's very approachable, and I've seen him on a couple of. I thought I was ahead of the curve, and getting him on the podcast. You obviously thought of it before me, and then since mine's come out, like poorly edited, someone's come out with a much better one where he was on.
Yeah,
But
yeah. But that's it. You've just got to put it out there, you know. And
yeah,
you speaking with him, I bet you've got loads of little nuggets.
yeah. I mean, the interesting thing is you speak to Matt, and obviously he's been like wildly successful with his YouTube and all that sort of stuff, and we're all dealing with the same stuff, whether you're on a different level or not. So basically all of the things that you deal with day to day, we're both dealing
Yeah,
with it. He's still got the sort of difficult customers, he's still got the warranty stuff,
yeah,
still struggling to find time in the day to do stuff.
yeah,
But yeah, I mean, he's loving life. He's got two
yeah,
editors that edit for him now. He's got a separate office where they sit down and do all that sort of stuff. And
yeah.
when he was on, he was driving around in a Bentley Bentayga that Bentley had just said, "Do you want to come drive some cars?"
That's
And it's
great.
like, it's
That's
just
great.
like, yeah,
And this is it. You should. And like Sam, I was good at it with the podcast, but we all should be documenting what we're doing.
yeah,
Be right open and transparent, and I think
mm,
it attracts people, it attracts the right customers, all
yeah.
that sort of thing.
Yeah, it helps people feel a bit involved as well, doesn't it? If you're running a business and you can kind of say, "This is what we're up to today," and whatever, people just
Yeah,
like it, don't they? I
and
thought it was just my dad that liked watching, the stories on
yeah,
Barrow Motors where we're picking up cars or whatever. But no, everyone does apparently.
yeah. It's like meditative, like watch like that chap from IP Motors, like he's not like in your face, is he? He's just
No,
like chilled out. He
yeah.
talks, he tells you, look, we've done discs and pads on this, we've done that. Really, it's like proper boring, but it's really interesting at the same time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you inspired me to do the podcast, but Matt probably inspired me to do YouTube because I thought, in the nicest possible way, and I can say it now because you've said it, I just thought, if he can do it, then I can do it. Not because he's boring, but because he's not animated and he's not like a
It's
TV
not,
personality.
yeah,
It's just down
exactly.
to earth. It's the type of guy that I am. You can say,
Yeah,
God, people are doing my head in because of X, Y, or Z. And that's what we actually deal with, isn't it? So,
that's it. Like you look
yeah.
at like all these YouTube influencers like Gary V, and there's this James Sinclair
Mm,
bloke off the business, and they're all like in your face, aren't they? And they're like, yeah, you got to be doing this and we got to be doing
yeah.
that. But you don't need, you just need to be yourself, because
Yeah.
like everyone else is taken. There's that quote, isn't it? Just be yourself, everyone else is taken. So yeah, just do it as much as you can. And going back to like old dodgy car salesmen, it's just not like that anymore now. It's
No, no,
like and like as well, you don't want to be like a faceless business,
no.
you need to get your face out there and stuff. And I'll admit I'm the worst one for it. I should be doing it more. I should be
I
doing
think
it
you, I
more.
think you're pretty good. You post up your things about your running and whatever. Because obviously, I followed you since I followed the podcast, so I see that you do your running and all that sort of stuff. So very admirable. Sat here at 17 stone. I really need to sort it out.
Well, there you can, if I can run, anyone can run. And
Oh, I
Nick,
can run. I mean,
lovely cars. He's done loads of marathons now, and
Nick.
yeah,
Was that Nick? Yeah, yeah. I feel
yeah,
like a real fanboy, of course. I've listened to like every podcast now, and I thought part of the reason I thought I'd get you on is, obviously you're good at this. You might have some good tips for podcasting for me, but I think your podcast is probably like the best thing I've ever found for someone who wants to get into the car trade, or if you're in the car trade and you want to learn some things, just get some advice. Like that's
yeah,
the best thing about it, is talking to all the different car traders that you've spoken to, and then everyone's got a little nugget, haven't they? This little idea, you should
Yeah,
do this, whether it's stock funding, whether it's like
yeah.
the car buying service, whether it's getting a better website or whatever it is. I learned loads of stuff. And I think probably if anyone ever came to me like, what should I do if I want to get in it? Which I haven't done yet, but I probably should do is, check out Car Dealer Pro podcast, because it's all there.
It is, isn't it? And you know when I'm sure there's lots of like things on the internet where buy this
course or whatever
course, yeah,
yeah
buy this course and it's going to teach how to be a car dealer and you're going to make 100 grand a year. Like utter bullshit. Like when I done that podcast was just for me, really, to find out what everyone else does. And I knew that, if I do a podcast, everyone likes to be, I'm on a podcast.
Talk about it. And
and people love to talk, especially car dealers. They love to talk about the game and get everything off the chest. So that's all it was. It was just more for me to help me progress.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, I'll put it out there into the universe. And anyone who starts off car dealing, I say them just listen to a podcast, because everything I've learned is on there. I mean, I started off with like 10 cars. When I was doing that podcast, I probably had 20, 25, and now we've got 60 cars in stock. And I've done that if I hadn't done that podcast, because like you say, you find out about stocking loans. Now, when I first started, I was one of these people, I'd never get a loan. It's my money, but you know what? If I just stuck to my own money, I might be at 30 cars now, maybe 40.
Yeah.
It's just such a slow process, where what I would say to anybody starting, well, if you haven't got a big pot of money, say you've got, I don't know, 15, 20 grand, just start off with the cheap cars, build it up, do your accounts. A lot of people are like, I don't want to be VAT registered. I don't want to do this. I want like try to fiddle or whatnot. Just don't do that. Put everything through your books. Do everything by the book. And then within 2 or 3 years or 2 years, you'll be able to get that stocking loan. And then once you get a stocking loan, you're away with it. Now, on one of the podcasts, I had my friend Ian from Club Class. I just remember him. He had a DJ agency.
And he kind of was doing this in the meantime, and it kind of took over, didn't it, almost?
Yeah. Well, I mean, he was getting my shitters off me, like a Hyundai Coupe, I remember he sold. I sold him 500 quid, a Ford Focus for like 800 quid. Started off with 10 cars or whatever. Roll on 3 years, they've got like nearly £750,000 worth of stock.
Really? Yeah.
What, 40 all prestige cars. And I know he doesn't mind me saying this, it's all through funding,
Yeah.
But once you can get that funding, you can buy the bigger ticket items with the bigger margins across them. If you constantly just
you can prove to yourself that you can operationally run it and handle everything, then it doesn't matter whether it's your money or someone else's,
That's it. It just means you're just paying them a little bit of, you're just paying them interest, but you're getting a bigger margin.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like, would you rather 100% of a £800 margin or 95% of a £3,000 margin?
Exactly.
And I was exactly the same. I was like, just don't get debt. Just do it. Build it yourself naturally. Then it'll all be yours and whatever. But like organic growth is only so fast. And if you look at the billionaires, like Trump or whatever, he doesn't just like, whoever. I've got probably Elon Musk. They don't just, if they're like, I'm going to buy whatever, build a Tesla center or something. They don't just put their hand in their wallet, do they? They know it's all funded and whatever. It's the sensible thing to do.
Yeah, exactly. And that, I suppose, the episode where the penny sort of dropped with that was when Rory was on.
Yeah.
From RS Car Sales. And because, this is it. You listen to the podcast, then you look at the cars and you compare and despair. At first, you go, oh, God, I'm doing rubbish. Look at all these people, they're doing so well. And then you use that.
That works both ways, mind. You can look at someone and say they're doing really well, and that's getting me down.
Yeah, but then you use that as fuel,
Oh, yeah.
Don't get me wrong. Look, I didn't look at people and feel jealous. I've never, because I want everybody to do well.
Yeah, yeah,
But I'd look at their cars or their websites and I'd think, oh yeah, they're doing really good. Oh God, I'm not doing as good as them. So how do I get to that sort of level? And I
yeah,
use that as fuel. Yeah,
yeah.
never be jealous of anybody in this. I want everybody to do well.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah, exactly. Well, there's a big enough market, isn't there, for everyone? At least the people who are trying to do it seriously, you know.
Someone said to me years ago when I first started, he still only sells cheapies, but he always said to me, he said, there's enough in this business, there's enough cars out there for
Mm.
everybody.
Oh
You know,
yeah, yeah.
I think there's all the
It's
old.
that's going back to like the old school kind of dodgy dealers thing as well. I think it's quite funny. You think about all the local dealers around each other, or just us talking to each other.
Yeah,
It probably, if you're getting into the trade, you think all car dealers must hate each other because it's all competition. I know I did when I was younger,
yeah.
and maybe they did back in the day. You wouldn't talk to Matey Boy because you're trying to pinch someone off of his pitch to come and buy your car. But I think it's the complete opposite now. You want to all work together and we've got like a truck, so we do deliveries and things like that. So we go around to all the local dealers, like, you know, we can do this, we can do that. We've got valeting and whatever. Like, we can help each other out. Then everyone wins.
There's so many different things to cars, I had a trader that worked behind me, and if he put a Yaris on, and I had a Yaris, he'd get it on. Oh, you've got a Yaris. I'd be like, but my Yaris is black and yours is red. So,
Yeah.
it's a different mileage. It's this, it's that. So you can't get like that in this job.
No. No, and then also, like, if someone comes to us and they say, "Oh, I was interested," but that is anyone else who's got, say, like, or they come to us and they want real cheap stuff which we don't have, and you just say, "I'll say, well, there's so and so up the road, or there's so and so up there." That's the sort of stuff they do. Go
Yeah.
and check them out. You know, it's no skin off my nose. I haven't got anything that you want to buy, so
Yeah.
why would I not help you out? In fact, sometimes you get the better kind of customer review from sending them somewhere else than you do dealing with them.
And also as well, I'm going back in the day. I've only been doing it 10 years, but when I first started, and if you did have a pitch, you'd get people walk on and you'd get excited. Where now, if someone walks on, I'm like, oh, fuck's sake, what do they want now?
Yeah, yeah,
They're
exactly.
going to come on because we don't have price boards in the cars.
Right, okay.
I just want everything online.
Yeah,
I want, and also because we've got like about 50, 60 cars, everything's like 4 or 5 deep. So when someone just turns up and they're like, oh, can I have a look at that one? It's always one where you've got to get like 10 cars out, and they're just wasting your time
yeah,
9 times out
yeah.
of 10. So
Yeah, I've tried to avoid. I could do that whole thing of like going 2 or 3 deep, and we would get so much more stock in there, and it would probably benefit me to do it that way. But I just don't think my patience could handle it. You know, that whole like someone said, I want to look at that one at the back, and then you'd be like, yeah, that one's not really ready to. Oh, I still like to look at it and try. And it's like,
yeah. That's another reason we do. We do view and by appointment as well, because then you
yeah.
can get the car out, can't you?
I used to do that, and that was great when I had a unit where I worked from, and you would still get the odd person turn up, but 9 times out of 10, people would book an appointment, and either they turn up pretty much on time, or they just wouldn't turn up, because obviously that happens as well. People don't people book an appointment, they just don't turn up.
Yeah.
But that was great. That was a relief. And in fact, I remember back in those days when I had that unit and I could put the roller shutter door down. If I'd really been flat out for a few days and I wanted to sit in the back office and kind of like put my feet up and get a bit of shut eye for half an hour, I could do that. And that was bliss. I could look on the cameras, and if someone turned up, I was like, oh, someone here, right? Kind of like give myself a slap around the face and go and deal with it. Well, I just couldn't do that now. We got a forecourt, we got reception, we got the workshops going and everything. And
so have you got a workshop with mechanics in it then?
Yeah, well, one mechanic at the moment. We've got another one starting in a couple of weeks, thank God, because we are kind of stacked back up.
And how do you find that? So do you do MOTs and servicing for customers, or is it just for your sales?
We do. We haven't got an actual MOT facility, so we use another garage.
Right.
But that works okay. It kind of, you can say, well, it's impartial and all that sort of stuff, but it's getting the MOTs in and whatever. I think I'm a fairly patient person, but I'm a bit like, it's nice when you got your own workshop and someone comes in with like you probably talked about it before, actually. Someone comes in with a warranty and you're like, right, just figure it out and get them gone. Like, drop what you're doing. That cam belt can wait till later. you've got all day or today and tomorrow to do that. Let's get that sorted. So it's great in that kind of regard. But the problem I find now is because we do customer like just service work. Someone wants a MOT in a service, they want a cam belt done, all that sort of stuff. It's great because it's kind of a bit of cash flow and it keeps everyone busy. But when that's too busy to get your own stock sorted out, as I say, at the moment we've got one mechanic, and you've got someone in who's complaining that since you serviced their car, the tire went flat or something, or I don't know, just something stupid.
Yeah. So you're getting more bollocks then.
Yeah, I mean, it's not too bad. I mean, we the workshop guys are good, and we've got pretty good rep for that sort of stuff. But it's just that if they're like, yeah, this one's turned out to be more of a nightmare, every bolt's rusted, and it's going to take me all day rather than half a day, so I can't do that car that's meant to go out tomorrow or whatever. And what do you prioritize when you've only got one person to do that? And then you start thinking, well, we're spending all our time fixing up these things for a little 200 quid here, 100 quid there for servicing and whatever. Versus if we just got that car sorted, there's like 1,500 quid, £2,000 margin in that. So it swings.
You've got this is something I battle with every day, is because we haven't got a garage. We've got a garage next door to us that is separate. And being, I suppose being a car dealer, we're all a little bit controlling, aren't we? In the way that
if you haven't got everything kind of under your control or want to, then it's just going to go to hell, isn't it?
Like, it stresses you out, doesn't it? So when you've got like 5 cars going out on a Saturday, and I hope the garage aren't listening to this, but they leave everything at the last minute. Which I think like most garages, so we'll MOT them cars on Friday that are going out Saturday, and then they need discs, pads, they need this, they need that, and then you just last lapping. You're getting stressed out, and it's not in my control. Where if I had my own garage, I'd be like, right, Wednesday, get all this stuff done. We want everything prepped and ready to go.
Yeah.
And that's why I think I need to get a garage.
Yeah. I was going to ask you if you had yet or not, because you're talking about James Sinclair earlier. I heard when he went on his podcast, and I've listened to some of his stuff since. Some of it's really interesting. Some of it I just doesn't really resonate with me. But and he was saying about getting the site or getting a garage or whatever, and to see whether you've actually had managed to do that as of yet.
Yeah, no, I haven't. And what it is, there's just nothing coming up near me. That's what it is, because we're sort of in the middle of nowhere. It's in a village. And there's a lot of land about and stuff, so I'm sure something might pop up. But the last thing I want to be doing is getting a garage that's like 20 minutes away, and then just carting them up and down the road, and it'll probably just take up more time when we've got a garage right next door to us. What I need is the garage next door to leave, and then me to take that over. That'd
be perfect, wouldn't it? Yeah. But you said they're quite new there, aren't they?
They've been there about 5 years. They've been there.
Okay.
Actually, yeah.
Have you been and spoken to them and made an offer and let them know that you'd be interested? No. You don't want to be too rude, do you? But
no, it's not going to happen. That they're a little bit. They're lovely people. But they're a bit. That's. Yeah.
It's the same with us.
What would you do then? What would you go in and offer them? Say, look, I'll pay you a wage. Or would you?
I don't know. I don't know them, so I don't know. I mean, I had a fairly similar thing recently where, because our issue, not wanting to upset any of the MOT centres that we do use, is neither of the MOT centres that we use will give you a set time. So you get a customer, it's just like, we'll do that today. And you might have an MOT in a service, and they'll MOT it it'll be done at 4. Then you've got to get back to our garage and try and do a service, which should take 2 hours. And it's just, and then the customer is like, well, you can't pick it up till the morning. And the customer, it's out of our control, and I hate it. And there was a place that I got the idea, sometimes you keep an eye as you go around on all the local businesses. There's been a showroom before that I was aware of, and the garage. And I thought, I'm getting the feeling that things aren't going that great there. So I'm going to speak to whoever owns it or whatever, or them, and say, look, I'd be interested. So I have done that before with the showroom, but in the end they changed it into something else. But there was a garage locally that was MOT and whatever, and I was going to go in and speak to them because they'd kind of had like a mass exodus of staff, and I just heard some kind of rumors through the grapevine, as you do in the motor trade, that perhaps they were going to close down. They couldn't be bothered with it anymore. So I tried to get that, but someone else has got it. But the guy who owns it, I actually know quite well. He's the guy who does our like waste disposal, the bins and all that sort of stuff.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And he's like, I don't think that's going to work out. So, you've got next dibs or whatever. But I wouldn't mind getting somewhere that you could do MOTs. But in your scenario, I don't know. It depends on how friendly you are with them. I don't think it's rude to say, like, it sounds a bit of a weird thing to say, and I don't mean any offense in this, and I'm not trying to get rid of you, but if ever you did want to move on, or you had a change of thought, or you didn't like being the boss anymore, or you just wanted to have your easy wage and leave all the headaches and emails to someone else, I'd be really interested in having this, blow a bit of smoke up their ass and be like, I love this place. Obviously, it's a great location for me. I'm not going to bullshit you and try and beat you down or whatever. This would be amazing for me with my business next door. So I'm not saying I want you to do it or I'm making you a crazy offer, but just think on it. And I think 9 times out of 10, people either come back to you and be like, no, I thought about it. But I think if you're nice to people and you can kind of whatever, they will think about it. That's all you can hope for, isn't it?
Yeah, look, if you don't ask, you don't get. Shy kids don't get any sweets, do they? And
No.
what it is my mind's going round now because the garage next door are always moaning that they never make any money. Always going, oh, bloody hell, we're not making any money. This is like, they've been there for 5 years. So maybe I could go in there and offer them, I don't know, a little lumps.
The way I think about it sometimes is I feel awkward as well, like going in and being like, this business that's probably your pride and joy, and if you're anything like me, your self-esteem is tied to, then, I want to buy it off you because I don't think you do it as well as I would. You don't want to be like that. But on the other hand, what kind of happened with me in that I didn't go in and speak beforehand. I waited until it closed down. And then I found out who owned it. Yeah. And he's someone that I know and have a good relationship with. But someone else already picked me to it because they knew about it. And if I'd gone in earlier, I could have secured that. So then it's just, I don't mind in that scenario because it's not the ideal solution. It just would have been a good one. But for you, that is the ideal place.
Yeah.
If they're like, do you know what, we're closing down, just to let you know, we've been looking around. I spoke to my friend. He's taking it over. He's never done it before, but he's going to give it a go sort of thing. You'll miss out and you'll get some moron next door who doesn't know what he's doing. And you'll just hate yourself. So the sooner you can get,
You know what? Today's a good day to put it to them because yesterday they had the gas bill, for like.
Oh yeah.
And it was $4,000.
Bloody hell.
And they were like absolutely gutted, So it could be a good chance to go in and just say, "Oh look, I've had a little think. I've had a little, yeah."
Yeah, I'd really like to. I'd really like to do it. I'd love to give that side of things a go, and bit of stress off your mind. If you wanted to stay, that would be the best scenario as well. Because you're already here, you know the place. I'd quite happily give you. We could work out between us a figure for the equipment and things like that.
Yeah. So, but and how much?
There's just those little teasers that think, oh, do you know what? If I could free up 10 grand because I'd let them have the ramps and all the MOT equipment or whatever.
Yeah.
And then once it's under your control, it's under your control, isn't it? It's just
yeah, definitely. And how much did it cost you to set up the garage then, if you don't mind me asking?
I got actually quite lucky because it was already kind of established. It took me, to be fair, it wasn't equipment. It was the building's just really run down. We got like a insure and repair lease.
Yeah.
For 6 years at the time. But it had like windows that were waist high that the toolboxes went up against, it just wasn't safe. So I had to like block up, put better windows in, kind of just did the whole kind of renovation on the place because it was all just hadn't been touched in years. And it still needs work now. The roof could probably really be doing. So, maybe if one day the owners, because it's a real family owned thing that's been around since it was built, still in the same family.
Yeah.
It might be tricky to buy, but I would like to. But it came with ramps and tire machines and everything. They just didn't want it. There's no use to them. They left it. So we got that sort of stuff. But I don't know. I mean, it depends on if you wanted to put a couple of ramps in. Is it an MOT garage or is it a?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So an MOT setup's a lot more, isn't it? I have been looking into the whole MOT thing, and I think for me, I would, if my ideal situation for getting MOT centre would be a brand new unit that's never been touched, and we'll do it out fresh.
Yeah.
It's probably 30 or 40,000 for all the equipment, etc. But I would lease it. Again, going back to that, makes sense with money. My other half will sort of listen. Why would you do that? You could spend the money. Why borrow it? And I was like, well, because your rent maybe 2,000 a month. Say it costs you 250 quid a month for your equipment to lease it.
Yeah.
Someone else has to repair it, etc. as well in that meantime. And then it's, 4,000 for wages, but you can bring in 10 grand.
Yeah.
Then it makes sense. Why dump out 40,000 that could be stock on my forecourt somewhere else?
You're more money.
Yeah. So I would in that scenario, I would lease, but I don't know, if you go in there and they sound semi-interested and you've got, you can get a list of what's there, I can certainly help you out, because we've bought air conditioning machines, we've put extra ramps in, we've got tire machines and whatever, it easily adds up. But then again, some of that stuff isn't hugely expensive. I had a new 2-post ramp installed and fitted and concreted in for like 1,500 quid plus the VAT. The tire machines are only really about 800 quid each plus VAT. Yeah, you think they're hugely expensive. I mean, you can get more expensive brands, but they do the same thing, really.
But what about, is the staff the hard bit, would you say?
Can be. And this is my thing with going back to when you're saying about people who are like trading from the driveway and trying to avoid being VAT registered and paying their tax and that sort of thing. It's quite easy to make a profit selling cars then, isn't it?
Oh, God, yeah, it's dead easy. Yeah.
But if people were like, I want to be serious about this, and they're trying not to whatever, and they're trying not to, I don't know, show too much profit or whatever, stick some of it in their back pocket. I just think that's a really small, not thinking big. For me, I want to make the business look as good as possible. So like you said, at a later date, you can borrow more money, and then it's compound interest, isn't it? You borrow more money, it's whatsoever. So you need to be thinking 10 years down the line,
then you've got something built to sell.
Exactly, yeah.
Something to sell at the end.
Or employ a great manager, even if it costs you 100 grand a year, who can run your couple of sites or whatever, and you just sit back and kind of dip in, have fun, chat with everyone, see what's going on, tell people off for what you don't like, and then you dip out again. But that would be my idea. That's the sort of thing I'd love to have, is something a bit bigger that warrants that. But if your idea is like, but I could make 4 grand this month or whatever, or 10 grand this month by not declaring it, and I've bought myself a Rolex, and I just think every time you're just taking 1 step forward and 2 steps back, you're not really thinking big enough.
Yeah, that is. I've always, since getting into this, that's exactly how I've thought. It's a long-term thing, and when you heard that James Sinclair podcast, I remember saying, I think that year I might have earned like 20 grand, which was terrible. When it's like, I can't imagine going back to earning 20 grand. But at that time, I was thinking, like you've just said there, I've got a grand profit in this car. You feel like you've got loads of money, but you haven't.
No.
It's overheads. You've got to keep turning it. You've got to turn it as much as you can and as quick as you can.
Yeah.
And when you're paying like a massive 16 grand VAT bill, in a way, that's a really good thing. That means
it sucks, because you kind of feel like you're just paying that. But the good thing as well is, if you are paying a 16 grand VAT bill, which I've been there as well, then if you're keeping on top, again, comes back to the accounting you were talking about, like just try and keep I hate accounting. I hate all the admin type of stuff. But if you're keeping on top of the cash flow, when it comes to paying, well, what a gift it is to be able to say, you got to pay a £16 VAT bill, and you're like, okay. Yeah. And you don't have to worry too much about it, You're
not like in the podcast, I always went on about that best book I've ever read in my life that has helped my business get to where it is Profit First book by that Michael, I forget his second name, he's got a funny second name. And once I read that book, I done exactly what he said. So if you've got a grand profit in a car, so basically you have like four accounts. So you have your overheads, you have a profit account, I have a stock account, and then I have a VAT/tax account. So let's say you've got 20 grand in your overheads account, which covers your rent, your auto trader bill, your wages, all that stuff, and then your stock account is where your pot of money is for your cars. So let's say we've bought a car for 5 grand. You take that out of your stock account, put it in overhead, pay for the car to Manheim, BCA, whatever. Then when you sell it, let's keep it simple, for 6 grand, you get your 6 grand goes back into your overheads. 5 grand goes back to your stock account, so you know exactly where all your money is for your stock. The grand that's left over in overheads, I leave 60% to cover auto trader, wages, all that, and then 10% goes to your profit account. 10% goes to stock account, so you add into your stock every time you sell a car. And then 20% goes to VAT tax account, which is the beauty. So then every quarter you've got enough money in your VAT tax account to pay for your VAT and tax. Or if you VAT's every 3 months, isn't it? So say I've got like 20 grand just sat in the VAT and tax account. I'll think, right, I'm not going to pay that VAT bill for 3 months. So I'll use that 20 grand and buy a few cars because I know I'm going to sell them before the next VAT bill. Do you know what I mean?
But you just know it's got to go back into that account. And
that's it's got to go back in. And for me, and the way my mind works, that's the best thing I've ever done, ever.
Yeah, I can see how that's...
I'd have your overheads account, I'd have like 60 grand and I'd think, oh God, I've got loads of money. But once you take that bill out, auto trader, this, that, buy a few cars, you're then like, shit, I've got no money. And you're just on this constant rabbit wheel
treadmill of
chasing your tail.
I can see how that definitely would help. That's probably the sort of thing I should do, but I don't. I mean, I think I'm quite lucky in a sense that I can almost look at the stock and be like, okay, well, we've got everything that we need, and the account's looking very healthy, and I'm like, right, okay, VAT bill's coming out, whatever else is coming out, rent's coming up, all that sort of stuff. And I think very rarely have I got myself in a cash flow problem, but I can see how having that there would actually help you track as well. If you look at your stock account, look at your stock book, it would just help. And then you're like, well, like say if you've got 20 grand in your overheads account, you're not tying that in with your stock and being like, God, we've really grown.
But and for me, it stops me from being daft and buying like a 20 grand car. Because you know what I mean? If I had like loads of money just in the overheads, I'd just buy big lumps all the time. But because I've got that stock account, it reins me in from buying too much stuff.
I've definitely been guilty of that as well. I really try and... Do you know what? We're all guilty of it, especially if you like cars. You think, oh, we've got a good amount of money in the account now and not really that much space. So I may as well buy something a bit more expensive, something I like. I'll buy something really nice and it might not go as quick, but it will go.
Yeah.
And then you just resent it because it's there 3 months later and you're just like, why? I didn't even like it that much. And the amount of times I could have turned that over, and now I'm having to really discount it. And
yeah, it's so annoying.
I'm really trying to avoid that now. The also thing as well is I think we've sold much more expensive stuff, but I think our sweet spot is like 12 grand, 3 grand to 12 grand maybe. And would I love to be selling like Range Rovers and whatever? Yeah, fine. But it's just not what our market is. We got a car supermarket just up the road, so low mileage, little Japanese boxes and things like that as well are not really our market. We have them and we will sell them, but people would rather go and look at 50 of them amongst 300 cars, which we can't do. So
you've got to find that sweet, and you don't, like you say, you look at other traders that have all these really expensive cars and you think, I'm going to sell a few of them. And then I don't know about you, but for me, like BMW, M Sports and stuff like that, I can't sell them for love nor money. And I think it's because I'm not passionate about them, because I don't really like the sporty cars.
Yeah.
For those, I say it all the time, mum cars, like Fiat 500Xs. Don't really like Dukes, but that like MPV mum car. I think it's just our business model, really, like lovely car company. It just fits it. And for some reason, I then attract the people that I want. Like, look, like attracts like, doesn't it? And
Yeah.
I think I come across in our business is just like a friendly, easygoing business.
Mm.
And because I'm not a car like petrol head, that's why I struggle selling the really like not prestige, but the sport.
Yeah.
Just got no passion for it, you know.
Yeah. No, I can see that. I think sometimes, yeah, we can sit on that sort of stuff. But yeah, we can. Yeah, it is a trick to figure out what is your
Yeah,
niche in a
you've got to
sense.
find, you've got to like what you sell, haven't you?
Yeah, you got to be able to put some, I'd say, yeah, give a bit of experience or whatever. I just realized that your question a minute ago, I went off on a tangent, which is what I'm very guilty of doing all the time, was about like managing staff, if you're saying taking on the garage
Oh
and
yeah,
whatever.
yeah,
And I was saying that it's easy to do it, make a profit whenever. It is tricky because then you've got staff though, haven't you?
yeah. I've
Yeah.
got so that actually one of the best things I've done, and it's only been the last 2 months, is I've took on a salesman who had experience at a main dealer.
Yeah.
So James has come from the mini main dealer,
Right.
and the chap where before Phil, he left to go to a main dealer, but he was part time, and
Right.
he was more of a I molded him into me sort of thing because he was young. He was 21, and I showed him how to do everything. He ran the business how I ran the business, which was great. It was brilliant. But since I've took the step of putting someone properly full time, it's the best thing I've done for the
Yeah.
past 2 months. And that's what I've been guilty of, is trying to get cheaper people, you know, trying to do, we'll get in part time, or we'll do this, we'll not have like two valeters. And really, the more you put into your staff, the more money comes back to you.
Yeah. And that is
And
it. And it's
what I
yeah, I've
found,
been very guilty of like, like I need someone else going back, say, as like a valet or whatever. And it'd be like, let's try and hire a friend of a friend or someone you know
yeah,
already know
worst thing
or
you can
whatever.
do.
And like you think to them, I can say, oh, well, it's not hugely that beneficial or that doesn't pay that great, but it's a great atmosphere and we have fun and I do cool things with the staff, like just going on track days and things like that. But you are better off getting someone who's serious about the job,
Yeah,
really is good at it and
you've got
whatever,
your
and paying
mate.
them well for it. It's
Yeah,
better value.
definitely.
But it is a lesson to learn because
It is.
it's tricky taking someone on for a start. But then the problem I do find is that if your staff aren't exactly, you know, they're a bit like me, a bit of a jack of all trades, but perhaps maybe not quite as good at everything as
Yeah,
I feel I can be. But they wouldn't be because they're not as passionate. It's not their business.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
You then have taken some of the load off of yourself, but you've also created some and making sure that they're staying productive.
yeah,
And
yeah.
that is a killer for me. It's like
Same.
some of the young lads who I love, they're great lads, but you come out and they're on the phone again. I'm just like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
kick that phone out of your hand. Come
Well,
on.
Phil, and I know Phil be listening to this, the salesman had before James,
Mm,
he was not, well, he wasn't as proactive as James.
yeah,
And that's where, if you pay for someone, that's where it reaps the dividends.
yeah,
Like I'm here doing this podcast for you, but I know that James will be on the phone to loads of customers, chasing up leads, doing this, doing that, because he's getting a good wage, and that's what I'm paying him for. Where
yeah,
before I think, oh, Phil, I'm only giving him a part-time wage. I better be there. I better be helping him out. I need to
yeah,
be there. I need to do this. And now I'm like, fuck that. This lad's getting shitloads of money,
yeah.
so he better be running it. And the
Well,
other
that's
way,
it. That's
yeah,
it. Yeah, it justifies it, doesn't it? Like you say, if you're paying less and you're like, oh, I don't want them to feel like they have to stay a little bit later after work and finish dealing with this customer or whatever it is, the things that
yeah,
happen, or
yeah,
this, if it's a valeter, this really grubby car that he's saying, oh,
yeah,
I wouldn't want to clean that, but it's got to be done.
yeah,
But yeah, let's say if you're paying well, you're like, well, don't moan, it's your job and you're getting
yeah,
paid well for it.
yeah.
Which makes you sound a bit of an asshole, but it's just the fact, isn't it? It's the same way anyone else would treat you. You're
Course.
probably as guilty as I am. You want to be kind of, if you're the boss, you want to be everyone's like best mate in a sense and be kind and whatever to everyone. But at some point, people People can take the mick, can't they? But
we're the ones shelling out all the money every month, aren't we?
Taking on all the stress, and
yeah.
they can go home at whatever time, and that's the end of it. But it's
But all this stuff you learn as you go along. It's not. It takes a long time to learn it as well, doesn't it? You learn the hard way. Every day is a school day.
You can't do it overnight, can you? It's
no.
It's So I feel like you should go and have that chat with the garage anyway.
I am. I'm gonna today. I'm gonna put the little. What's the word?
Just plant the seed.
Plant the seed. I'm gonna plant the seed, definitely.
Yeah. Yes, they might not think about it now, but they might come back to you. You want to be the first person that says something, because I guess that's something I've learned is if you spot something isn't right, if they're complaining to you, they're complaining to everyone, because you know what everyone's like. They've got their things that are on their mind. They want to tell everyone.
Yeah.
And
you
I always think to myself, that's something's there. That's something I can work on in the future, and I've spotted that. Guilty of being just, I don't know, egotistical. I've spotted that. No one else will. It's not the case. I haven't got a special, eye. Everyone else was also hearing them say that they're hating life at the moment, and someone else will have the same idea as you. That
thing is, though, if I took over and then you're all keeping your jobs, and then 2 months later I'd lose my shit with them. I'd just sack them all.
Well, again, at the end of the day, you can't be a good boss to anyone if you're just I don't know how to word it, but you can't be everyone's best friend, can you? If you're trying to be everyone's best friend, you're no one's. You're no good to anyone, are you? Because you're not.
You're not. Of course you're not. Of course.
So
it's boundaries. It's getting the boundaries right.
I would imagine that if you offered to take the place over, is there an owner and then some staff under them?
No. It's just all them working.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it's a bit of a shit show, to be honest. So I would like to. It'd be good.
I'd imagine they'd want to walk away. I don't think they were going to want to be someone's employee.
No, but
you might be able to get them to take someone on, train them a little bit, or
my biggest fear is taking on a garage and then me having to be there at 6 o'clock sorting shit out. That's what I don't want to do, because the beauty of this job, I've got kids and whatnot. I'm here doing this podcast for you. I can go into work at 11. I can leave at 2:30, get the kids. I'll be on the phone to James, the salesman, the valeter, and the chap who buys cars for us and stuff. I can do everything from my phone, but I don't want to get a garage and think, shit, I've got to be here all the time. And do you have to be like that?
I don't. I try to just completely not get involved. In fact, I'm trying to. I've got a little office out the back of the reception.
Yeah.
So I try and stay away unless there's no one else in reception to go and deal with people. That's not because I'm an arrogant person, don't want to live it. It's just there's just always admin, buying the cars, everything else to get on with, doing the YouTube and whatever, which I'm sure all the other lads who work there feel like they probably come and watch me listening to the sounds of my own voice and thinking, God, this is not. But it's all marketing and it actually works incredibly well.
Yeah.
I don't. I think what you'd have to do is you'd have to think what's a good price to pay someone to kind of run this place, and then add a little bit maybe, and really attract the best, and explain to them the situation. It's it's on you in a sense. I'm here to help out and whatever, but I can't be here to hold your hand. I'm not a mechanic, because neither of us are mechanics. I can't tell you the solutions or the answers. What you need is you can get someone who's technically really skilled, but just got no common sense and they've got no problem solving. I find that infuriating. They're just we can't do this, we can't do that. I can't get the part from so and so. It's like, have you tried getting the part from a different supplier or whatever else? And then they're like, I don't know, and they phone up and they get it, and it's just like, why was I bothered with this? It's.
And another thing that sort of has put me off is, say we need a clutch next door, they'll go, we can't do the clutch, you need to take it somewhere else. This car, it's got electrical problems, you need it to take it to the electrician. And I don't want to get in that thing of I've got this garage with all these people working, but everything's just getting shipped out like it was before,
Yeah, again, the mechanic we got now, Steph, he's great, and he's the Mac tool van comes round and he's taking his wages and he's spending he's like, oh, I just spent 350 quid on this electric tester.
No one's doing that for me. The Mac man is not coming round.
Yeah.
What's the
Well,
other
I'm
one?
not spending any money, but they'll go in and he'll come out and he's like, I got this electrical tester, so now I can do a bit more electrical testing. He's spending his own money, which is the way it works.
Well,
It
fair
should
enough.
work with
I thought
mechanics.
you then they were going to spend your money.
Oh, no, not mine. The way it works with mechanics really is the way it should be. And again, is the benefit of employing a proper, professional rather than a mate or whatever. When you've got like mates who do a bit of mechanics and maybe went to college, because I did go to college and do mechanics for 18 months. And other friends stick to it. But they'll be like, oh, yeah, we need this. And I'll have to buy the diagnostics. I'll have to buy the whatever, and then they'll use it. But if you've got a proper professional mechanic who's moved from place to place, they've got their own tools, they take pride in their tools. Yeah. He will invest in his own equipment so that he can offer more services. So that's again, just another sign of, hiring the right people. You're paying them a decent wage. He can afford to buy these expensive tools that then means he can do the electrical stuff that we might have shipped out. He's like, we keep using this electrical guy, like you say, and he's not really fixing stuff. And he's like, I can do this with this. And, if you've got the right person, it's great.
Yeah, you've got me, man. The cogs in my brain are going round now because I didn't realize that. I thought I'd have to buy all the tools and stuff. If I'm being completely honest,
they'll all. I mean, maybe. I mean, like the equipment, like ramps. No one's coming with a time machine under their arm. Yeah. But and maybe diagnostics. I don't know how it tends to. But yeah, like the mechanics that I've had two proper professional ones, and they turn up with toolboxes that are worth more than the building they're putting them in. It's all snap-on stuff and whatever, and it's a real point of pride, I guess.
Yeah.
So and then there will be the other ones where I've tried to employ mechanics, and they'll be like, "Oh, I haven't done mechanics for 20 years," and it's like, "Well, have you got tools?" And they're like, "I've mostly chucked them all in a fishing box and whatever." Now it's a bit like, I'm not paying to equip.
See, for me, I'd know it was a good mechanic if all these tools are all properly laid out like OCD.
Yeah,
and that would be you're my man. But it's just all shot all over.
You'd be surprised. And that's the other thing I find as well. People who work in kind of like dirty environment. I used to be a plumber, and the ones who are really good at their job, even if they work in a dirty environment, the ones that are like really clean. So if they turn up to their interview, everything's cleaner than I am,
Yeah.
And it's all white trainers and everything's white and not like a grease monkey that's covered in grease and they've come in for their interview like that. The ones that are clean, you're like, I can tell that you're someone who's not going to just trash this place and whatever. There's a strange thing. I get that. I used to have a friend who did like groundworks and did septic tanks and stuff like that, just constantly working in shit, basically. It's like OCD clean.
That's what you want. Yeah, I've just thought as well. So another thing that I always thought, so we've got this garage next door, and what I thought at a later date, what would be a good idea, not necessarily Range Rovers because they're so fucking problematic, aren't they? But let's just say Range Rovers. I'd love to be a Range Rover specialist or something like that.
Yeah.
And because you could probably get 30, 40 on the pitch. And then you'd have a specialist garage next door for Land Rover. And then you would have a mechanic who you could pay 50, 60 grand a year because he is like a Land Rover specialist.
Yeah, he's going to be the guy that other people will call because they've got an issue with a Land Rover.
And just having the pictures like Land Rover specialist, and you could put a really good margin across the cars. It'd fill the customers with confidence. And then you could sell like warranties for because that a Land Rover is going to come back. 7 out of 10 of them come back, don't they? But if you say, look, buy this £2,000 warranty, and virtually everything's covered, and that they're going to come back, but you've got a pot of warranty money there. You've got this really good mechanic. I think you'd make an absolute fortune doing something.
Yeah, well, and depending on the age of the whatever it is you're selling as well, you can do things like we thought about it before, like doing like service plans and things like you ever think like Mercedes? You see like their service plan, servicing for the first 3 years of the car, and it's like $4,000.
Yeah,
like Jesus.
We should be utilizing we should be. I don't get my. I tried service plans. Maybe I didn't push them enough again because I was doing everything myself. But having this salesman, he can maybe push the service plans. But the problem we've got is like, you look at a service plan, you're not really making that much money unless you charge them £4,000, and then you've got say 2-3 grand in a car. You don't promote them service plans. You think, oh bloody, I've got all this profit in this car, and that's what I want to think about your garage. So is it disheartening thinking, oh, we're not making this much money with the garage? We're doing a service and we're making 40 quid, maybe margin, where you've got a car that day you've sold and you've made £2,000. How does that sit with you?
It's been tricky when I was, again, like when you're trying to keep it low cost, it's tricky seeing like those smaller margins coming in on like the servicing. Like I was taught, I think my mum sort of said to me when I was younger, because of a whole entrepreneurial family, you can only sell your time once. And it's the same if you've got someone who works for you, you can only sell their time. You can have more employees, but if you're set with the amount of people that you've got, you can only sell their time X amount of times. But a product, you can sell for as much markup as you can get, and you can sell as many of them as you can get your hands on. So it is tricky that you think, God, yeah, if I could have just got them to fix that car, that would have sold for a £2,000 margin. But instead, we've made 100 quid out of the workshop today. So I spent a lot of time and had all the staff filling out timesheets for their day, exactly how they were spending their time. Was it on sales related stuff? Was it on service? My sister's used to work for Debenhams before they all shut down as a management accountant. She was helping me out, saying, so she would work it all out and saying, you're spending X amount of time on this, you're spending X amount of time on that. This is making you X amount. And it worked out that basically the workshop was profitable and it was worthwhile doing. Really helps with cash flow, because you might have, there's just 1,500 quid, £2,000 a day trickling into the account via the card machine or whatever, which, obviously always helps. But obviously it doesn't make as much as the car sales, but there's added things, isn't it? I'm not shipping stuff out to other people to get stuff fixed. So it's saving me in that regard as well.
Yeah.
It's helping me.
And do you charge so like, say I got this garage, would the lovely car company invoice the garage, or do you
I don't, just to keep it simple, because I know I'd have to pay my accountant more if I started doing all that sort of stuff.
Right, yeah.
But we keep job sheets for every car, and we work out, the parts, how many hours labor, so we can work out exactly how much we spent on it. But I do keep it all together. But my plan at the moment, I'm currently shopping around, which is why I was looking at this other place I was talking about earlier, is to get an MOT centre. And I do want to run that as like a satellite, completely separate.
Yeah.
Almost just MOTs and tyres and alignment, maybe.
The local people.
I don't even want to I won't do MOT repairs there. I won't do, just general repairs or whatever. It would just be a well-run MOT centre with time slots, clean, fresh, nice coffee machine, somewhere you can sit and do it. Just a bit better than everyone else is doing it locally. And I've kind of done the figures, and I know that again, that might, over a space of a month, make the equivalent of like 3 margins on a car. But the overheads are going to be less. And it's just constant money trickling in. And it should, so long as you keep booked up, it should be, there's almost like 2 different types of income, isn't there? The best money I've ever made is from selling houses. When I've bought houses, done them up, lived in them for 5, 6, 7 years, sold them, and I would never make that sort of margin. But it takes that much longer. So I mean, it's not the same, but if you can have both, why not have both?
And it gives you the control, doesn't it? That's the thing.
And also, we're trying to do. I got a couple of young lads who work for me. One of them who's really into his valeting, and I always find him spending too long polishing cars. I'm like, it doesn't need to be that good. And we fall out on that. But we've kitted out a van now, so he can go off and do mobile valeting for other people. And again, it's not going to be making me loads of money, but it helps him get out and maybe build his skills, and it will bring a little bit of money in for me. And again, but it's another thing we can say, well, we could do a ceramic coating for you or whatever. We've got another lad who's driving the truck, and he's getting all his licenses and tacho and everything fits. So we have the trailer on the back. So now it means that collecting cars when we're buying them or delivering them, or for all the local we can do services of collecting cars, appraising them, whatever. I guess trying to branch out a little bit. There's smaller things coming in, but if you've got enough of those little smaller things, but it does mean a lot to, but it is a lot more to manage. But I'm also saying to them, it's yours to manage. This is an opportunity. It's yours to manage. I will help out, but I'm not on the phone booking jobs in for you or whatever. This is your baby. I've put the money up. I've got the equipment. I've got the business and funneling the jobs in.
Yeah.
But you've got to find the right people for that, haven't you?
And does this job, is it not like a job for you? Because
no, I'm obsessed with it.
I get up every morning and I'm like, I can't wait to go to work.
Yeah, everyone's got that whole thing like, oh, Monday again. I'm like, Monday again.
Yeah, that's what I'm like.
It's sad in a way, but then I don't know. I've said on when I've done other podcasts and things before, because I get almost like it's a therapy session, but I think because I have done therapy and tried to figure out why I am the way I am, why I am so obsessed with that, why do I not want to take holidays and things, you know?
Is it something to do with your childhood, would you say?
Probably, yeah. I mean, yeah, I think my mum always wanted me to be entrepreneurial.
You said something earlier on about this job being attached to your ego.
Yeah, well, that's it. There's definitely...
Because I think that, so with me going from DJing 20 years and then I had to get out of it and do something, I couldn't have just went and worked in an office for somebody. And I think that's why this job, I'm not saying it feeds your ego, but it gives you a sense of, what's the word?
I always say it's tied in with my self-esteem, you know.
It gives you that, yeah. Because you get that.
It doesn't matter if I'm actually really achieving or it's not going quite right, but if I know that I'm getting up and I'm striving for something and I'm working towards something, I can feel okay about myself.
I've got a little funny story I thought you might want to hear.
Oh, go on then.
Happened last week. So we had these foreign chaps turn up at the pitch last week. Just as you're shutting up shop, you know what I mean? It's always when you're shutting up, someone turns up, don't they?
Yeah.
And these foreign lads turned up and like, have you got a 7-seater? We said, we've got this extra here. Like, oh, can we take it for a drive? Yeah, no problem. So they get in. But we need to go, you know, it's 4, I think it was like 4:30, 5 o'clock. We need to get home, so be quick. So they go out, they take the car for a drive, come back, and they're like, oh no, it's not for us and all this, blah, blah, blah. And then put the car back, we lock it up, don't see him again. Right. The next morning, valet away, he gets in at 7 really early, and all these foreign lads are there waiting at 7 o'clock in the morning. And it's like, bloody hell, what's going on? And they're going to rob me or something. What's happening? Like, you have my money. You have my money. And we're like, what money? What money? They'd left $5,000 in the car.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
So, like, obviously, they'd come to buy a car with cash.
Yeah, with the cash ready to go, but it wasn't the one for them, and they just left it
in the car. And Wayne didn't have the key for the X-Trail. So they're like, we need to get in this car. You have my money. You have my money and all this. He's like, I haven't got your money. I don't know what you're on about.
Not the way you want to start the day, is it?
But can you imagine being that chap who, the night before when he got home and he's like, where's my $5,000?
Yeah.
Anyhow, James, the salesman, turned up with the key and we opened it and the $5,000 was there. So they were over the moon. But I hope
they gave someone a tip.
No, they didn't. They didn't. We could have bought a car.
But Wayne the valet should have had, at least get yourself a couple of drinks and relax.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, bloody hell.
So but do you know what? Like, do you know what? You can't find me anywhere on Facebook because I had me a bloody.
Because I had it all hacked.
I had it hacked, so I'm gonna have to get another one. But if anyone started us on the Lovely Car Company on Instagram and Facebook. Yeah. If any car traders have got any questions or anything, want any advice, any help, I'm always up for, just give them that.
I appreciate it. Well, you're the man to know. You've spoken to everyone, so you've had everyone's insight now.
And what's your plan then for the next 10 years?
I was hoping you'd do this. I thought I'm ill prepared for this podcast, but Dave will take over. He knows what he's doing. Start running the podcast for me. Well, I'd like to have an M&T centre. I've got a plot of land I've bought that's called the farm site, which has got planning and everything on at the moment. I'm hoping to have an office out there, and just kind of it.
And if you don't mind me asking, how much was that then? Your plot of land?
180.
That's cheap.
Bought that at auction. It was 4 acres with buildings. We've now got a horse riding arena and stables and everything because the girlfriend's horsey. But the buildings, I'm having like permission to sort of clad them and put this office and everything in, and that's kind of like a bit of a semi-retirement plan, I guess, because it's got loads of space for loads of cars and whatever. And if it was a case of I had an office down there, and if I ever wanted to wind down and be a single man operation, it would just every resource I'd need. So yeah, just kind of getting on with that. An MOT center would be very handy, and just keep doing YouTube and podcast and whatever. And I think it would be naive of me to say I think I've got. I know a lot of people have got like a plan, haven't they? But my plan's just like this never-ending, open-ended thing. Yeah. It's like we'll see how we're doing in a year, and then we'll double down on our expectations, maybe.
Yeah. And have you got any plans to like get like 100 cars in stock, or do you always want to keep it smallish?
Yeah, I'd love to. I think I need another site, which I'd love to do. I think it's just achieve one thing and have it running at a thing, and then just start looking at whatever. I think if I'm not constantly trying to do something else, I will just lose interest. So there has to be something else to not lose interest, but I won't enjoy it as much as if I'm trying to build and grow and whatever. Do you feel the same? Obviously, you're thinking, you'd like to get the garage and.
Well, I just want to leave something for me kids, really. But if they don't want to, if they wanted to sell it or whatnot, but yeah, for me, it's just building up as many cars as possible, and then with the profits, just buy one house a year. And then really, the properties that I did buy, I should have put them in a limited company, and I haven't. But I should have done that. But I will eventually do that, and then it's just simple. Yeah, just simple.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's it. Sometimes that's what it needs, isn't it? You just got to just do the steps and make the sensible options. But people could be like, "Oh, but that's." Do you know what I find infuriating? People are like, "Oh, but you could get more out of this. You could get more out of doing that." And I was saying to Matt, because I assumed that I sort of said the type of people that I hate on Instagram, and I bet he hates, and I'd imagine you hate as well, is the ones who are like, yeah, but property's a liability and you need to rent. I'm a multi-billionaire and I rent my house and don't buy properties and whatever. And this is the way to do it. No money down. I was like, fuck off. No, I've never made any more money than I ever have out of property. And the sooner you can get on the property ladder, the better. The more opportunities are going to open, and that money is like kind of working away for you the whole time.
It's compound interest. And that James Sinclair said, "Oh, don't buy residential property anymore." It's like you need to buy
commercial or whatever.
Which I do agree with, but fucking have you tried to buy commercial property?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
It's really hard, and it's
well, they don't come about. If they do, the prices are just astronomical these days. You think about like that garage, for example, that I was trying to get. I bet back in the day, whenever he bought that back,
like 20 grand.
Yeah, exactly, like 20 grand, and he's just kept it, and it's just nothing. Owes nothing. Yeah. But now you want to buy something similar, it costs you like 300 grand or something.
Yeah. So with me, I mean, at the minute, it's really boring. At the minute, where I've just been buying flats, but I just want that income where I can get 400 profit out of them. If I have 20 of them, that's like 6, 7, 8 grand, profit a month. And that's the end game sort of thing. I don't want to be making all this stuff that you see, no money down deals, property gurus. It's all utter bullshit. At the end of the day, you just slowly and steadily make your money. And I'm not.
There's no shortcuts, is there?
I'm not rich in any way. Like I've got loads of stock and loans, mortgages, everything. But I'm right happy, and that's all it is.
Yeah. And that's the other thing as well, is I think, what would you want? If you can build something and be really comfortable and happy and like appreciate everything that you've got, like a sense of achievement is what I'm trying to say. Rather than someone who's like, oh, you can make millions and millions. But for me, what would I want it for? I don't want a supercar. I don't want, those sorts of things. I'm not going out to nightclubs and going off on flashy holidays on yachts or whatever. That's never going to be me. So, but knowing that you've put something in place and your actions have got like a nice income coming in, it's looking after you. And
that's it. The purpose of life is to have a purpose.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
That's the thing. That's the other thing I think is that if I wasn't like obsessed with getting up and going to work or whatever, if I didn't have something to try and achieve that day, more than I can handle probably, I want to try and achieve in that day,
Yeah.
I wouldn't get out of bed and I would be the most miserable person
Yeah.
going. I would just be flat if I didn't have things to.
Well, that happened to me. So when
Yeah.
I gave up DJing in Magaluf, like in 2011, I think it was, and I'd paid off my mortgage. I bought this house in England mortgage free, and I thought, oh, I'll just DJ 3 nights a week and I'll chill out. And I ended up getting depressed because I had
Yeah.
no purpose in life. I had
Yeah.
nothing
Yeah.
to look for.
Well,
Just
what
go,
do you do when you haven't got things you need to get on with? It's.
yeah. So that's the beauty of this job. You've always got that. I know we're always going about warranty claims and customers being a nightmare, but that's all part of the fun of
That's
it.
part of it, isn't it? Yeah. And it's part of it because once you've dealt with it and you've handled it and kept everyone happy and no fists have flown and whatever, that's
Yeah.
something you've achieved and well done to you. You've
Yeah. Yeah.
it's
And as
yeah.
long as you do the right thing, like we always try to do the right thing.
Yeah, yeah.
But you're always going to get the odd, like we've got one at the minute trying to take us to court with this bloody Land Rover, and he's just been an absolute bell end. And
Yeah.
yeah, that is bad, but we'll get round it. So this Range Rover, this chap bought a Range Rover, and then a month later he rang us and said, "Oh, look, I'm getting divorced. Will you buy the Range Rover back?" And we were
Right.
like, "Oh no, like we don't want to be selling them anymore. It's not something we're interested in, whatever." Then next few weeks he's like, "Oh, it's got a coolant leak. Okay, we'll get it diagnosed. Whatever, we'll sort it out." We didn't even hear back from him. Then next thing, I want my money back on the car. It was a distance sale, which it wasn't. He came to the pitch to buy the
Yeah.
car.
Yeah.
It's a distance sale, so I want the money back now. And he's went to the solicitors, and we're getting solicitors letters demanding the money back, blah blah blah, or to fix it for £3,000. So, he hasn't got a leg to stand on, sort of thing.
No, but you've still got to deal with it.
That's it. Yeah, I've got to deal with this
Yeah.
bollocks.
You can't just ignore them and be like, you're in the wrong. I'm sorry, they're the facts, and good day to you.
Yeah,
You can't, can you? It's like you've just
yeah.
keep
So
being diplomatic, keep going through the process.
yeah, when you could be buying a car, sorting something out. So yeah,
Yeah. Well,
that is,
and it's not just that; it's your mind's on that. Even if like it only takes like 20 minutes to make a phone call or do an email or whatever,
you've
then you're
used
like,
that
oh,
mental energy as well, haven't you? And
yeah,
you use a lot of mental energy as
yeah,
well. So that's the worst thing about the job, but it's few and far between, isn't it?
yeah. And I mean, you get it in every walk of life. I had a bit of a barbecue down at this sort of farm I got at the weekend. There's a chap down there. He's like a top-rate valeter. He goes around, does all the really posh stuff, and I get him in training our lads occasionally. And he was saying that he'd valeted a car, and he'd said just on his way there at like 7:30 on a Saturday night, he had someone coming on and giving him a load of grief because the guy had opened the door and found dust in the door shuts. And he's like, "Well, I valeted that car a week ago," and he was just giving him hell. Do you know what I mean? And I know when I was a plumber, you'd get people giving you just crap.
What's the best bit of advice you've been given as a car trader?
As a car trader, I would say sometimes it's the deals you don't do, not the ones you do.
Yeah.
So you get a customer coming, you just think,
Yeah.
you couldn't pay me to do a deal with you. And I have said to people before, which it's a risk, isn't it, when you run a business being so blunt, but I've said, I don't want to sell you a car. I don't think our expectations are on the same page.
Yeah.
You're not going to be happy. And I'd rather, you try and word it diplomatically, but if you just think you're a prick, and all you're going to do is complain forever, and you're going to try and knock me down on price now, and then 2 weeks down the line, you're going to start picking faults with everything left, right, and center as well, being completely unreasonable because you think this is just rolled off the used car factory, and it's a 15-year-old car or whatever.
Yeah.
So I think car related, that would be it. Generally maybe it's just like you can't please everyone, to make sure you please yourself.
I think don't try and be when we first start, we're all like a little bit perfectionists, aren't we? Prepping of the cars. So don't be a perfectionist. And David Organ gave me some right good advice, and it wasn't on the podcast, it was after we stopped recording. And he said, because I said about, bloody hell, Auto Trader, it's like at the time it was like £3,000 a month. And he said the key in this business is to make your overheads look small.
Yeah.
So like make that auto, even though it's £3,000 a month, sorry, you've got to make it look like it's not a lot of money. And that ain't stuck with me, that. So instead of
Yeah.
going for them small margins, just try and get as big a, you've got to be greedy with your cars. Where before when I'd Part X stuff, I'd be a little bit lenient with people. Where now everybody gets it in the nuts because we're running a business and
Yeah.
the overheads are really big. So
And I guess that comes with, it's the sort of thing you can't just, it's got to come with some experience, doesn't it? Because I've found that with cars, is you think, I'll sell it to someone else. If you're really trying to knock 500 quid off and I just don't want to hear it, it will sell to someone else. And if it doesn't, I'll discount it to 500 quid where I am anyway. So why would I offer it to you now? And it's that confidence of not just when you start, you want to take the deal, don't you?
Yeah. You don't think there's going to be another deal in the pipeline, but
Yeah. And there is an element of like, what's that saying? First profit's best profit. I think I probably heard that from you.
Yeah.
Which is, I say that to my other half sometimes because she sells some of the part exchange cars and she's like, should I take this? No one else has really been interested and whatever. I'm like, it's profit. Take it. Let's move on to the next one. So there's an element of that. But why am I not making the money I want to? And then you think, well, I'm spending 2 or 3 grand a month on third party warranties, which are useless.
Cut them out.
Yeah, they're absolutely useless. They just cost me money for no reason. All they do is create me stress because the customer can't get hold of them or they just phone me anyway. And then they don't cover it, and then I look like a prick, and then I've got to pay for it anyway. So
again, best good advice was Jamie Carkey, and I said, "Oh, what warranty? Do you use a warranty company?" He said, "No." He said, "I just give everyone 3 months warranty, and I'll fix anything within 3 months, and then I don't want to see them again."
Yeah,
thought, that's really good. That
that's what we do now, and we started using logistics. You heard of logistics? Yeah. And we did their sort of administered ones because they're only like £8. You've got to pay it, but they take the phone calls. But then we just get people saying they don't answer the phone. They don't answer the phone. I've been phoning for like 2 days, and my car's got a broken spring, and you just look like a mug. And
again, back to the control thing, isn't it? That's what.
Yeah, desperately looking forward to this new mechanic starting because I've got about 15, 20 cars that they've just been put to the back burner. This is a downside of having this farm because I'm just like out there, out of sight, out of mind, onto the next one. We'll deal with that when we can. But I've got ones that have got like tappy heads, ones that need clutches, ones where turbos have gone, ones that need an oil cooler changed, one that needs a timing chain. It's just like, quickly, I haven't got time.
I'll tell you about this ST, red ST, 18 plate, sold it. Well, no, we had it at the bottom end had gone, so we refurbished the engine. The bloke bought it, drove away with it, and the engine shit itself. Like, as he drove away. Took the car back, redone the engine. Then the brakes aren't working. It just goes on and on and on forever. So yesterday, I go to collect the car, and now it's in limp mode. So this is just, you always get one, don't you?
Yeah. That's just,
I'm too far.
And it's always, there's one.
Just get rid of it. But I can't now because I'm too far in. My leg's too in. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's what I mean with all of them out there. I could just be like, right, I'll just send them off to auction or whatever. But when you look at, you're like, I'm going to lose 500 quid on that one. I'm going to lose, 1,000 on that one or whatever. Like, that's fine. When you got 20 of them, you're like, that's 20 grand down the drain. I just can't do it. That could be 10 grand of profit if we fix them. But it's just having the time. But the problem is it's the cash flow tied up in them at the moment.
Yeah, you need to get them done somehow. Best advice I've ever been given, and it wasn't to me, it was to my sort of business partner, Howard. He's good mates with, if you Google him, he's called John Holland. He's like the Tom Hartley of Sheffield, but he's got a big unit and it's got like Bentleys in, it's got the best cars going. He used to sponsor Sheffield United. They've got property everywhere.
Yeah.
Proper millionaires. And he said to Howard, he said, when you're having a really good month, when you're absolutely smashing it, get rid of all your shitters that month.
Yeah.
Say, like there was one month where we'd made like 26 grand, I think it was, something daft like that. And I had a cash cow where I was going to lose 3. So I thought, right, that's the month to get rid of it. So then when you got your profit and loss at the end of the month, you're still in profit.
Yeah. It softens up load and it keeps everything.
Yeah, for me, psychologically, that's the best advice I've ever been given.
Yeah. Even if you're losing out, say, like on those cars, if I got rid of them and made like a 10 grand loss on them, it's probably 20, 30 grand capital still coming back that I could use again. And how long would it take you to make that 10 grand back? It's probably not that long.
Oh, of course it's not.
So
But
it's just
psychological getting around
psychological
it.
game, isn't it? Yeah, it is tricky. But
So,
there we are.
thank you very much. And
No, thank you so much for coming on. No, I really appreciate it, and it's good to finally chat with you.
yeah.
So that was Real Talk episode 4 with David Gott, the founder of Car Dealer Pro Podcast. I hope you've enjoyed it. It did go on and on for a bit there, but I didn't want to cut David off when he's got lots of stories. In fact, it went on for about 2 hours or more, and I've trimmed it down a little bit there. So I hope you enjoyed it. Please make sure you subscribe to the podcast wherever you're listening or watching, and all the links for everything we've talked about and where you can find David will be in the description. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next time.